Hello everyone. In this video, I will discuss the storyline of Anime No Game, No Life. It tells the story of two brothers, but not inbred, namely Sora and Shiro. They are gamers who always beat all their opponents in a game. They are known as Kohaku or No Name. Even though they are invincible gamers, they are just a NEET whose job is only playing games in the room daily, and shut themselves out of the outside world because they think the outside world is boring. Then there is a mysterious figure who contacts them to fight him in a chess game. And they both managed to defeat him. As a result, he offered them to go to a world more suitable for their existence, where the mysterious figure is a god named Tet. He also explains that in that world, everything to solve problems will be solved through a game. The seizure of the territory of an empire is resolved using the game. After explaining the 10 absolute pledges to them, Tet left directly from there. Meanwhile, they are gradually trying to live while looking for information about the world. Then they arrived at the kingdom of Elkia, and there was a gambling tournament to determine the next king there. She is named Stephanie Dola, the granddaughter of the previous king, while her opponent is named Kurami. It can be seen that he is struggling because he needs to become an expert in the game. Then Sora challenged someone there to play cards. If Sora won, then he wanted to take all the money. If Sora loses, he is free to do anything to Sora and Shiro. Then when the game starts, the woman uses cheating tricks, but Sora can still defeat her badly. Then, when he saw Dora's game with Kurami, Sora realized that Kurami had been helped by someone there. So Sora tells Dora that Kurami is rigging him. After that, Sora and Shiro stayed there and recharged all the smartphones they had brought, and they used solar charger batteries. Not only that, Sora was determined to stay in the world because that world was more interesting than the previous world. After Steve was defeated while playing with Kurami, he met Sora with Shiro. Steve also became annoyed with Sora for not explaining the cheating from Kurami. Otherwise, it would be Steph who would have won the previous game. Sora didn't care about him and even insulted Steve as the son of the foolish king. Because they argued with each other there, they ended up playing a game of suit to resolve their debate, and the loser must accept all requests from the winner. It turns out that all ends in a tie, so they will accept each other's requests. Sora also asks Steve to fall in love with him, and it turns out that the oath's power is that the pledge when starting the game is absolute. As a result, Steve has feelings for Sora, and even Sora feels happy to be able to squeeze her breasts there. Then Sora and Shiro will live in Elkia's royal palace, which is on the verge of collapse. Then Steve explained the human race Imanity, where the territory of Imanity is only Elkia remains because other races successfully captured their territory. Even Imanity is ranked at the bottom, which is ranked 16th. Also, the Imanity can't use magic at all, so they don't realize that the opponent is doing something wrong with using magic. After seeing the abilities of Sora and Shiro, Steph also wants them to save the Elkia kingdom. Because there happened to be no activities, Sora decided to become the king and intended to challenge all races in the world. Then during Kurami's coronation as king, Sora suddenly approaches Kurami to challenge him, and revealed that Kurami has teamed up with an elf to win the game. Because they had discovered the existence of the elf, the residents became distrustful of Kurami. Then Sora challenges him to take the king's throne from him, and Kurami accepts him and prepares a game for them. Before heading to the place, Kurami explained that cooperation with Elf is the first step to living peacefully under the rule of Elf. Even Kurami asks. They give up before the game starts, but they rejected it very coolly. Then the game of fighting for the king's throne began. They played a chess game whose pawns had their consciousness so they could order him to move. Then when Shiro wanted to sacrifice his pawn to make the next move, suddenly the pawn couldn't move at all. This is because the pawn has consciousness and does not want to die. As a result, Kurami can corner Shiro. Fortunately, Sora understood the game, where the game was not ordinary chess, but a war strategy game. So Sora encouraged his entire army. However, when Kurami's king pawn descended on the battlefield, suddenly his entire army became stronger and turned the white pawn into a black pawn. Because Sora is cornered, Sora has no choice but to jump directly into the battlefield, and Dan seduces the queen's pawn belonging to Kurami. Fortunately, the sweet words of the Sora were able to melt her so that the queen turned into a white pawn. Even the black pawns could not afford to slash the beauty of the queen. Then the queen's pawn, along with the others, turned into a red pawn that is a rebel, in which they would defeat Kurami's black pawn king. Although Kurami still forced all the pawns to fight, the king's pawn cracked because his body was too burdened. As a result, they managed to win the game. At their greatness, Steve was reminded of the king's earlier words, where he believes that humans have hidden potential to defeat magic, and even the strongest races. Then Sora and Shiro were very serious about saving the Alkia kingdom, and even Sora quickly solved all economic problems along with spies in the kingdom. After that, as the new king, they gathered the residents in front of the royal palace. After that, they relax in the royal room. Then suddenly, Tet meets the two of them and moves them somewhere to talk to each other. Tet also explained that this world is determined by the game, including the title of a god. If someone manages to defeat 16 races or an entire race, they will get the right to challenge God. So that Sora and Shiro will happily get the right to defeat Tet for the second time. It makes Tet very happy, even though they both thank Tet for taking them to another world. Then Sora and Shiro read all the books there to get information about the history and weaknesses of the other race. However, they did not find him at all, so they temporarily played together with Steve and played tricks on Steph until he lost all his clothes. Then Sora thought of the Warbeast race, filled with half-animal humans. As a result, Sora decides to conquer the kingdom so that he can have fun with the women. Before that, they had to get information about the Warbeast race first. Then Steve explained that there was a royal library there. But the library has been controlled by a Flugel race, ranked 6th, and was called a god-killing weapon in the past. After learning about it, they went straight to the perps taken and intended to take over all the knowledge there. Then it was seen that there was a Flugel there. He was named Jibril. Without further ado, Sora challenges him in the game to take over the library. Instead, Sora risked 40,000 books of knowledge from another world that existed. However, he still couldn't believe that Sora and Shiro came from another world, so he also did a sensitive area body examination. Of course, Sora became excited to do that because he could touch his body, even though you only touched his wings. Furthermore, Jibril believed they came from another world, even though he accepted Sora's challenge and would risk everything he had, including himself. Then, they will play a tangible chain word game. At the beginning of the game, Sora starts with a bomb explosion. Fortunately, Jibril made a high-level armor around them, thanks to which they managed to survive the explosion. After which they instead used words that could remove some parts of their bodies, making the game atmosphere more enjoyable. However, after saying many words, they began to get serious about ending the game. Sora intends to find a way to make Jibril unable to move or make Jibril unable to say the next word. Although he couldn't speak, it turned out that Jibril made a word writing to continue the game. Fortunately, Sora had already prepared the word writing first, so Sora used atomic theory to create a hypernova explosion that could destroy many planets. Because Jibril was first killed there, Sora and Shiro won the game. After learning that they were taken by a god named Tet to that world, Jibril welcomed him happily and would be the servant of the two of them.
俺らをこの世界に呼んだのはテトだ。
ジブリール、我がすべてはマスターのもの。
Then, because Jibril had thousands of years of knowledge, Sora unceremoniously inquired about the Warbeast race or the Eastern Federation. It turns out that the Eastern Federation has a very strong military strength, even the third largest country in the world. Also, they can read minds, making them very difficult opponents in the game, even if they win the game, which will erase the entire game they played from the player's memory. As a result, they were very short of information to be able to deal with the Eastern Federation. Then it revealed that the elf race had also lost 4 times against them, and the Elkia Empire lost 8 times, which made the Eastern Federation take over half of Elkia's territory. Having learned of it, it discouraged Sora, and they considered the king before very insane. Sora, however, still felt that the previous king had a reason and believed the king had gotten information about the Eastern Federation after losing 8 games. Then Steve gave a secret key belonging to the previous king.
間違いない。エロ本だ。
やっぱり人生を誤る。
It turned out that there was a secret room in the royal chamber and a record of the previous king, which contained the weaknesses of the Eastern Federation game. The king did all that to settle the situation further and reclaim their territory from the Eastern Federation. The previous king was certainly a great man who pretended to be stupid. Next, they stopped by the place of the embassy of the Eastern Federation in Elkia and met the assistant ambassador named Hatsushi Ino. He also knew that Sora and the others wanted to see Ambassador Hatsusu Izuna, so he was happy to take them to see him. Then they met Hatsushi Izuna, and Sora joked excessively in front of Info to make them upset. This ensures they can't read their minds, but you can only guess the opponent's lies. After that, Sora challenged the Eastern Federation as the first step in conquering the world. That is by holding an interstate game to seize the territory of the Eastern Federation in the country. Not only that, Sora intends to divulge all their secrets that can't read minds, even in their game, a game master cheating without players noticing. And it stands to reason that they have a sixth sense that makes opponents believe in their strength, even though it's nonsense. After that, Sora risked the Humanity race pawns to challenge the Eastern Federation while risking the entire territory and the residents.
チェックだ。逃がすと思った。イマニティのすべて。死の駒をかけよう。
So he was trembling to see Sora's strong determination with Shiro. Sora also gave them a little time to make the right decisions because it was a top-level game. After returning to Elkia's royal chamber, Sora also wanted to prepare something to fight the Eastern Federation later. But suddenly, Sora's existence disappeared from the memories of all of them. However, Shiro still has little memory of Sora, so Shiro tries to convince Steve and Jibril of Sora's whereabouts and asks them for help finding Sora's whereabouts. After checking back on his memory, it turns out that Sora has played a game with Kurami, the one where they risked each other's existence. It can even scowl the memory that belongs to the opponent. But Sora plans to relent first and leave the rest to Shiro to finish the game. Unexpectedly, so Shiro can solve Sora's puzzle, so Shiro can win the game and restore Sora's whereabouts.
それは
After Sora and Kurami had kept each other's memories, they already trusted each other, and Kurami accepts his request to become Sora's spy. Even Kurami accepts if Sora erases some parts of his elf comrade's memory. Then Sora and the others gathered together there so that they would introduce themselves so that they could cooperate later. But an elf named Phi has a hatred for Jibril because Jibril had slaughtered many elf races in the past. So if Jibril were found guilty by Sora, Phi would forgive Jibril's actions if he licked Phi's legs by begging for mercy. As a result, Jibril had no choice but to do so their cooperative relationship would run smoothly.
どうぞお許しください、フィール様。はい、許したのですよ。
After going through various ways of approaching themselves, they also prepared to fight the Eastern Federation. Then the next day, they headed straight to Izuna's place and were warmly greeted by the Warbeast race. When the game wants to start, it looks like the residents of Alkaya can watch the show because their lives are all at stake in that game. Then Ino explained the game agreement to all of them. If the Eastern Federation wins, they will erase the player's entire memory of the game. Not only that, the Federation will take over the Humanity race pawns from Sora with Shiro, whereas if Elkia wins, then they regain their previous territory. When the game started, Phi was in charge of monitoring the movements of the Eastern Federation so that they could not use blatant cheating there, while on the other hand, it turns out the game is in a city. So make Sora and Shiro are weakened because they are traumatized by the hustle and bustle of the city because it is similar to the city in their previous world. After realizing they were in a game, they were excited to continue. Then Ino explains the game's content to them, where they will be chased and surrounded by female NPCs. Yet they could get rid of it with gunfire and a blast. If you succeed in paralyzing the MC, you can fill up the weapon's ammunition, while if it is besieged, the power of love will decrease until it runs out of love. Not only that, if Izuna manages to shoot one of them, he will fall in love with Izuna. It even applies to one's teammates and can replenish the power of their love that has been exhausted. After that, Sora had fun and did a detailed analysis to satisfy his desire to see a woman's body. Meanwhile, Izuna fights each other with Shiro in a building. It turns out that Shiro is very good at FP's mode games. That's why Shiro could dodge and make a devastating attack on Izuna. Even their teamwork can corner Izuna. After seeing Izuna's evasion ability, they confirmed it was a cheat. It turned out that Ino and Izuna could communicate with each other so that Ino could provide information about the shots and their whereabouts to Izuna. Thanks to that, Sora and the others were very cornered. Even Shiro fell in love with Izuna. However, that was one of Shiro's plans, which he only pretended to control, and Sora asked Jibril to fight Izuna for a while. Jibril became more excited while fighting Izuna there. While Sora fought Shiro on top of the building and fell from there. Even though Izuna caught them as they fell, they managed to trick him into being there. But Izuna used the Warbeast race's special ability, namely blood clotting, to avoid their attacks. Then they had difficulty dealing with Izuna, so Izuna shot both of them in the head. But after that, Izuna became careless because he felt he had won, even though there was Steph behind him. The one where Steve hid along with an NPCs, even Sora and Shiro lured Izuna to that place. So that Steve, who was already prepared there, could shoot her from behind. The reason why Izuna didn't notice Steph's presence. Because Steve closed her eyes, and her desire to attack him was so that her existence would not be considered dangerous by Izuna. As a result, the Elkaya kingdom won the game and regained its former territory. After that, they met the priestess of the Eastern Federation Temple. He also made a threat and challenged Sora to a game.
東部連合はエルキアに対して即時報復させてもらうわ。ただでは死なんぞ。
Because Sora is being challenged, Sora has the right to decide the game. The one where they play the most dangerous coin toss in the world, and the side that guesses the side wins.
Ascente!
フラヤ
When the coin is thrown, the temple priest immediately does a blood clot to analyze the coin's side quickly. When finished, he chooses the back side of the coin. However, all of that ended in a draw, with both of them winning because the coin stood between the two sides. As a result, the two countries became one, namely the Elkia Federation. Not only that, Sora guaranteed victory if the elf race attacked them, by altering Phi's memories and passing false information about them to the elf higher-ups. Then it is revealed that Sora's goal is to establish good relations with all races so that the 16 races can face the god Tet face-to-face. Then suddenly, the first-ranked race, Old Deos, possessed the priest, and he met Sora with Shiro. Very scary. But this anime ends here. Before that, leave comments and likes on this video. Thank you to those who have watched this video to the end. See you in the next video.
待っているよ。すべての種族と共に僕のたもとまでおいで。
さあゲームを始めよう。